All right, on to goal 3, using information ethically. So this is a really important topic. Academic integrity, writing with evidence, and avoiding plagiarism. All right, so what is academic integrity, right? It's honest scholarship. As a Quincy College student, you come here expecting to take classes, and in return, you get grades and then you get a degree, right? And your professors are expecting you to be honest and do your own work when you are handing in those assignments for those grades and for that degree. So plagiarism is, what we're all avoiding at all times. Plagiarism is the representation of the words and or ideas of another as one's own in any academic assignment. So it could be something very blatant like stealing or downloading the entire text of a paper, cutting and pasting various sources together to stimulate a new essay, copying small portions of a paper, or copying something from your friend's paper. And all of that is cheating. You know what you're doing is wrong and you know you're trying to get away with something. But there's also plagiarism where it's accidental and you don't mean to. You're misattributing source material. You didn't cite properly, or you put the wrong page number on something. You forgot to put quotation marks around a direct quote, something that's kind of innocent. So you don't want to end up, failing your assignment for plagiarism if it was an accident. So that's why it's so important to understand how to cite your sources properly. So if you need a reason not to plagiarize, just think if you found whatever it is you're copying on Google, your professor can just find it on Google very easily. All they have to do is copy and paste what you copied, put it into Google, and they will find exactly where you got it from. The school also pays for a program called Turnitin.com, where you can upload your paper to this program and it basically compares it to the things on the internet and it'll give you a percentage of what it thinks you copied in your paper basically. All right, so consequences at Quincy College for plagiarizing. You are supposed to get a formal written warning placed in your student file. You can get a reduced or failing grade for the assignment. You can get a reduced or failing grade for the entire course. And if you keep plagiarizing in multiple courses at the college, they can suspend you and even dismiss you from the college completely. Okay, so you say, I need to use evidence to back up my ideas in my assignments, right? So how the heck do I avoid plagiarism? All my teachers are telling me I need to use outside sources to back up my points. But what do? It's basically, there's two things that you do when you're writing and you're using other people's information. You're either doing a direct quotation, meaning you're taking the author's exact words. You always put quotation marks around it if that's the case to tell the reader that these are not my words. Or you're paraphrasing, meaning you have taken someone's idea and you've put that into your own writing and your own words and your own paper, but it's still someone else's idea. So either way, whenever you directly quote or paraphrase, you have to cite your source. So a citation is basically the way you tell your readers that certain information in your work came from another source and gives your readers the information necessary to find that source again. It also tells your instructor or your teacher, this is how much effort I put into this paper. These are all the different books and articles and websites that I looked at. This is all my research, right? And it's not just words and books and articles that need to be cited. It is images, videos, graphs, charts, anything that are using in your assignments that's not your own writing, your own thoughts. So this little infographic right up here, what needs to be cited? You can say, am I using another person's words? If so, yes, quote it and cite it. If I'm not using another person's words, am I using another person's ideas? Okay, so if yes, I paraphrase it now and cite it, meaning I put the idea into my own words, but I still have to cite it. If it's not another person's words and not another person's ideas, right, that means it's your own. It's your own wonderful idea and your own wonderful work, so you don't have to cite it because it's yours. Another instance where you don't have to cite information is when you are using common knowledge. So an example of common knowledge is George Washington was the first president of the United States, right? We all know that. Everyone in the class will know that for the most part. You do not have to cite basic facts and information like that. So there are many different citation styles that you'll be expected to use at the college, but the nice thing is, you're never going to have to memorize any of this stuff. There's always a guide that you can look up and use and follow. The two most popular ones at the college are MLA style and APA. Okay, so MLA is used in English classes, APA is used in all the social sciences, and also other programs like nursing, business, and things like that. We don't use the CSE style very much, but we do use Chicago style in some history classes. So citing your sources is a two-part process, okay? So you cite in the text of your paper. It's called an in-text citation. It's abbreviated. And then you have a works cited or a reference page, and that's the full citation, and that's the very last page of your paper. So two parts. And I showed you the library databases often will give you the citation that you can just copy and paste right into that works cited page, which is very handy. All right, so here's an example of a direct quotation citation. So here is my original article up at the top, and here's my direct quotation. As you can see that it is in quotation marks. That's again telling my reader I took these words directly from this article. And now this is called an in-text citation. So I see my author's last name and a page number. This is an MLA style, okay? You always have that extra little bit there with the author's last name. And if it's APA style, they might have author's last name and the date rather than the page number too. So sometimes you'll see this extra language after an author's name, the et al, and that's just Latin. It means and the others. So this is when this tells me as a reader that there are more authors, right? If there's more than 3 authors, then you usually put that et al because it will crowd your writing with too many last names there. All right, you can also vary your writing a little bit when you're doing a citation. If you mention the author's name in the sentence, right? So you could say, according to a 2016 article by O'Neill et al., quote, pugs are currently very popular in the UK and were the 5th most commonly registered UK pedigree dog in 2014, end quote. Now all I need in my parentheses is the page number because I've already mentioned the author's last name up here. I don't have to be redundant about it. All right, next up is how to cite a paraphrase. So I have my original passage from that same article right up here. You can see it's got the quotation marks around it. Those are the exact words that is in that article. So an acceptable paraphrase here. Now I've taken that paragraph and synthesized it into my own brain, and now I spit it back out again in my own words, right? You have to change the words around enough to make it an acceptable paraphrase. So this says in 2014, pugs enjoyed great popularity in the UK because of their cute looks and silly behavior, but they have well-known health problems like trouble with their eyes, respiratory issues, and being overweight. So you can see certain things, right? We changed behaviors such as attention seeking and begging for food, childlike facial features, large dark brown eyes are seen as endearing by human owners, right? So we kind of just condense that into saying that they're popular because of their cute looks and silly behavior. But then they also, despite their popularity, have all of these different health problems. So at the end of any assignment where you have to cite your sources, you will have in MLA style, it's called a works cited page. In APA style, it would be called a references page. But here's an example. So this is just an alphabetical order of every source that I would have used for my assignment here. And here's the article that we were just looking at. And then I added this as an example of, say, a book that I also may have used for my research. So citations will look different just depending on which citation style you are using, right? And again, this is nothing you ever have to memorize. You can always just look up the MLA guide or the APA guide. But this screen is just showing the difference. This is the one same article in all these different formats. And you can see little differences, like they all start with the author's last name, but some MLA wants the full first name spelled out, whereas APA just says the first initial's fine. APA puts the date right after the name, whereas MLA puts the date more towards the end. Again, just formatting stuff. All right, so if anyone ever has questions about citing, please don't hesitate to ask any of us at the library because we are pretty handy when it comes to helping you, with your works cited page or citing a source. Back on our homepage here, if you want to look up more citation guides, it is right down here under the citation guides link. We have links to MLA style, APA style, Chicago, AMA, and you can also scroll down over here where you click on citation tools. And this will link you to some helpful tools online. ZoteroBib is a pretty cool free service that will help you create any citation for any source that you find online or a book, and then it'll help you build a bibliography. So play around with that. It's kind of a fun tool. So back on our guide here, if you happen to want to play a game with yourself or with your classmates, we do have a little version of Plagiarism Jeopardy up here. That's kind of a fun way to test your knowledge on some of the skills that we just talked about as far as avoiding plagiarism and citing your sources, that kind of stuff. So feel free to play with that.